language groups that associate universal signatures, so I'm not sure specifically what she's referring to. There is the universal face, which is the source of all of that goes back to the Sanskrit and goes back to the Sumerian, and that actually curiously relates to this interdimensional parasitism by the reptiles, because part of the universal face was this ability to force people to show the face behind, or all of the faces of all of the experiential microscopes that your consciousness would take over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of your other faces. I wouldn't trust anybody that, just as an aside, there's a lot of people out there claiming stuff, and I claim stuff all the time, and everybody calls me on it. And so anybody claims that they can alter something, make them prove it.
Make them prove it.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the linguistics and your work, what do you, I don't know, I want to use the word, what's this Gulf oil spill now? Now, where's it going to go from here? What kind of degradation, marine problems, health problems, air, water with the people? I mean, how bad is it out there?
It's so bad that half of us probably will die from it.
Really?
On the planet.
Yeah, like many other people are saying that, Clif.
Well, you got to look at it in a number of different ways. Not only is there the ill winds, the poisoning of everybody by the constant spraying that's going on, because they're still spraying the dispersants, by the way.
Are they really still spraying?
At night, yeah. Further, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Matt Simmons was murdered, not drowned accidentally, because of the stuff that he was saying relative to the oil volcano, which is not yet shut off in the information I've got. You know, it's still spewing out from the cracks in the ground, and that the whole show that BP is putting on is just that, and that they're expecting they can manage it and they won't have to worry about it. But the problem is, or the issue for us is, the impact on weather. Now, we'd already had a situation where the weather of the planet was changing. We're in a situation of southern climate change. By sudden, I mean within the span of a human lifespan, because usually climates change so slowly it's not an issue.
Sure.
But right at the moment, we've got this now being accelerated by the impact of the oil on the lower levels of the ocean within the Gulf. And it really appears, from where they were drilling and all of the circumstances that led up to it, that this was another false flag attack, that this was the 9/11 of this particular year, and that what they did was they assaulted the U.S. and the planetary infrastructure through an ecological disaster quite deliberately, and that they drilled there knowing the pressure would be excessive, knowing that all of these various things would occur, and that did it all quite knowingly because of a particular outcome that they want to have happen. And that we're going to see climate change, but now that climate change has been exacerbated greatly by the addition of this large, dark, sun-absorbing mass in an area that didn't used to exist there, and it's caused the changes in the current structure. Now, we'd already seen that the Gulf Stream was weakening. It's been weakening probably for the last 40 years and has been intermittent the last couple of years. Now it appears to have totally stopped, that it dies about 250 miles offshore, which means that in Europe this year, they may see a situation where the Thames freezes 2 or 3 feet thick, and we have situation of canals frozen all over Europe that stay frozen for a long time. We may even enter into a minimum ice age. There are some other ramifications here, too. If this is the case, then that means that the chemtrail spraying probably was just simply not getting the job done for them, because there's a lot to suggest that chemtrails were there to cause an ice age, to reflect back so much heat that we would flip the planet. In the 50s, we had Isaac Asimov and other individual scientists of all kinds that said, well, basically we're going to go into a greenhouse effect and end up as Venus, or we're going to go into an ice age, and boy, we all sure hope it's an ice age. And the public would say, you know, I'd much rather have nice warm beaches than an ice age. But the problem is that if the oceans get warm, they die, and then everybody dies. So an ice age is good because it refreshes the oceans by making them cool, and they're basically the source of life and the regulation of the flow of temperature from the equator up to the poles, and then dissipating around the planet. So if you end up with warm oceans, you don't get the flow of you don't get the food, you don't get the regulation of the temperature across the planet, and essentially all life is at risk. And I think that is now the case because of what's occurred within the Gulf. Not only has it significantly altered the food issue and is going to cause starvation, and so thus people will die because there's less protein available and so on, but it's also going to impact us severely with weather. And we're going to get not only direct weather impact in the sense of frozen canals, disrupted transportation, and that kind of thing this winter, as well as excessive storms here in the U.S., but we'll also get a crashing global food supply over this year and next and beyond.
At the beginning of the show, Cliff and I were talking about rainwater and the Corexit and that kind of stuff in the rain. You might check out a website that I found quite interesting called testttherain.com, and I communicated with the man there and told him I was testing my rainwater with a test like it cost a couple $100. They test about 50 different things, and as Cliff said earlier, you really have to know what you're looking for and then test for that. And then that's what I was told. So if you really want to test for some total yuck stuff in your rain, you might check out this testttherain.com, and then you can get some testing done that way to see if you're poisoning your garden. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
John, Swickley, Pennsylvania.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Cliff, I'd like to bring you back to the topic of alien wars. About a year and a half ago when you were talking about this topic, you mentioned it in the context of increasing public awareness of alien abductions with the idea that people would actually be fighting back. You talked about the fighting back being more physical, people firing guns, things of that sort. Now when you talk about that topic, it's more the Ed Grimsley phenomena of shooting overhead. Do you still see the increasing phenomena of alien abduction still manifesting in public consciousness, and do you see an increase in people fighting back, and might this actually be more of possibly fighting back through psychic means, belief systems, power of meditation, that sort of thing, as opposed to physical violence?
I don't know about the latter. The the idea that the fighting back through meditative or consciousness means doesn't really enter into the linguistics. The linguistics are actually quite clear that we still have episodes in our future where we're going to see in the media that a farmer somewhere, was either cited by the local authorities or somehow it'll come into the media that he was out there shooting a shotgun at space aliens. So that part of the alien wars is still pending. I just have a tendency to not repeat myself and not go back over the same kind of stuff over and over again because I'm interested in the newer material. So, and the new material at the moment for me has been the Ed Grimsley kind of look out with the night vision goggles and watch it yourself. However, the alien wars are certainly heating up. The alien wars meme is going to hit us in terms of visibility and a bigger impact in October of 2011 than before then. So that'll be kind of not a peak, but rather the real first act of the play, and right now we're just watching the actors get all their makeup on and the orchestra tuning up. However, the other day we had a 300-foot crater left by a fireball in Ecuador or Colombia, I believe, and we've had several instances now of this summer of videos popping up with supposed aliens in the background. So that's part of the broader meme of the cousin Alexei, which is also part of the alien wars. So the alien wars stuff is progressing right along. I suspect that it's going to get really interesting from March onward as we go from March of 2011 through to October of 2011. It could be that we're going to see something staggering. You could even maybe stretch your monkey mind to say that the alien wars are going to be part of the tipping point in November. Again, in which case, hey, that'd be probably a lot better than global thermonuclear war with humans or, the Israelis having their mistake and attacking the Iranians. It'd probably be preferable for all of us to deal with a different reality for a while.
Does that get it for you? Okay, thank you. Do the linguistics at all talk about some kind of a political revolution in this country?
We've had that word, but it's been a subset of what we call a metadata layer. In both the populous US of A and the global pop entity, as well as in markets, we've seen huge areas under the word revolution, but revolution itself was part of a larger archetype of social change. And so there may be revolution, but in terms of, people running around with guns and some kind of a civil war sort of a revolution, it doesn't really appear to be that method of manifesting. It does appear that we'll be part of the revolutionary process that will go across the whole planet, and I'm thinking of this more in terms of a conflict or contention between the populace and the powers that be in the interdimensional parasitism that goes on at an energetic level than people running around with guns trying to establish a new political order.
Uh-huh. One Radio Network, Clif I, Half Past Human, Patrick Timpone. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
You talking to me, Patrick?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You're on the air.
This is Equipment, and I'm in Oklahoma City today. I have 3 quick questions for Clif. Clif, I have some experience with computers and long working those, but the questions I've never heard you mention, at least I have missed it. I have 3. The first one is, how do you run your program to project the time for the data that you're obviously getting today? Second question is, have you factored in what normal expectations or wants of people as a whole are, and do by any means have you noticed an uptick in your data indicating something for August the 5th or 6th?
Okay, I'm going to let you go because you got a really bad line. So we're talking about the time, the normal expectations, and August the 5th.
Yeah, August has passed, so...
yeah, we missed that. August the 5th.
Yeah, no, didn't see any. I mean, within August 5th, of course, we had it was within the first 10 days of August. Let's deal with the questions here. Time is factored in by, I had originally, when I set up the whole system, gotten a copy of the Oxford English Dictionary, and I stripped out in a digital form, and I stripped out all of the definitions and just kept the words in a lexicon. And then I went through and applied various parameters and gave them numeric values for time based on their impact. So, for instance, the word fear has a time component to it. How long it impacts you is longer than the word anxiety, or the impact is higher, but the anxiety would be with you longer because it's low level and it eats at you longer, whereas fear is much more of a shorter, higher intensity kind of a thing. So based on the word itself, it carries along with it the timing impact. And I'm sorry, what was the second question?
It was about normal expectations.
Yeah, the factoring in. No, I'm sorry, I don't do that kind of thing. It probably makes a lot of sense, but this was never... This project just sort of grew, and so I've always worked from what's expressing itself, not trying to compare it against a normative base, which, again, probably makes a lot of sense. Should have thought of it way back when.
Yeah, I have about 3 or 4 emails talking about in the next few months with financial issues and possible things, and so let me summarize them. So do the linguistics show something that we can kind of put our heads around, Clif High, like events that may trigger some strange financial ongoings, like, say, commercial real estate, derivatives, bank failures, those kinds of things in the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, actually, we're at a crux relative to the economy, which is independent of the tipping point, although it participates in it. So the economy is going to be flushed regardless of what happens in November. Mm-hmm. But we may see the November tipping point actually may be an expression of the flushing of the economy. We know this that from the linguistics, but we also have valid historical